So what does Jeff the Killer and Ravioli have in common?
They're both covered in red stuff and full of things you don't want to see on the outside.
Nope, they're both creepypastas.
Are you scared of pasta, or...?
Video game creepypastas roam the World Wide Web. Some more real than you might think.
Since the Sioux source material is a bit lacking in terms of detail, we will be including details consistent in most fan appearances of the two.
Herobrine! This is Missingno.
Minecraft is a game that's captured the hearts of millions thanks to its ability to let you explore and create nearly infinite worlds and possibilities.
And despite all of it, it bears a terrible curse. YouTube Kids.
There's a lot more horrors hiding within this game than just the content creators with questionable audience retention methods.
Worst of all is the soul of the creator's brother, trapped inside the code. This damned spirit is named Herobrine.
Or in Latin, legendary pickle.
As a ghost, Herobrine is the definition of chaotic neutral. He's not some vengeful spirit or anything, he's just messing with other players to screw with his brother.
As an entity living within the code of the game, he's not just limited to what players are capable of. He's able to bend the will of mobs within the game to his bidding, whether that be standard zombie hordes to weirder stuff like walking bushes that explode. He can also spawn as many of them as he'd like with spawn eggs, and even mate them with the right tools. Ew.
Netherite armor, cubic meters of dynamite, totems to revive him, eldritch deities, and even access to creative mode via the game's icon. He has all of this, and yet he chooses to chop off leaves and make tiny little tunnels.
He's a fairly skilled fighter, able to easily slaughter many mobs and players, and is crafty enough to recreate some flashy anime attack thing. He's also able to teleport, summon fireballs, control the weather, and summon nether stars to revive himself if he dies.
He also has control of the nether, which is basically hell for kids. He commands a race of pig goblins called piglins, who for some reason use the worst kind of weaponry in the game, but they make up for it with their warships and mech suits. And that's not even canon anymore, there's an entire game about that now.
He's also been shown to be able to resist code manipulations, and some Minecraft devs are still trying to figure out how to remove him from the game, even though they've allegedly been removing him for years.
The game's mechanics aren't the only thing Herobrine breaks. His mere presence causes the game to glitch, freeze, and crash on the regular. He deletes files off of people's computers and can leave the game to join other ads as well, such as forums or emails that conveniently disappear after one use. Despite this, Herobrine does have a few fatal flaws. He can be taken down as easily as any other player if he doesn't have nether stars or totems on standby. And despite teaching students for more than 10 years, he hasn't been able to graduate a single one.
Man, Minecraft's been out that long, that makes me feel old.
Pokémon was a massive success in the 90s, to the point that Nintendo basically lived off their handhelds while the Nintendo 64 and GameCube weren't doing so hot. But yet, something in those games they hadn't accounted for. All the deleted Pokémon they left to die gathered around Lavender Town to form the most fearsome monster the Poké world has ever seen. Missingno.
That being said, they're not as easy to actually meet, since involved manipulating the game in a specific sequence of events. Maybe they just really wanted a friend or something. In any case, as a sentient glitch, Missingno is actually pretty good at making the game look weird. He's capable of swapping assets to change a Pokemon's appearance, reducing their levels, and reanimating fossils, as well as the usual screen distortions, freezing, crashing of the game itself. Not like it's that hard in Gen 1, that game was programmed on duct tape.
Missingno, however, is far more capable than glitching a crappy game. By being swapped to different games, Missingno is able to take the form of other Pokemon and use their abilities, similar to a Ditto.
Among the ones he's been documented as capable of swapping into is Scizor, a bug with knives for hand, Porygon2, who is sentient but was banned for causing seizures, Hitmontop, who is a pretty sick breakdancer, Houndoom, a cool dark fire dog, Raikou, a legendary master of storms, Octillery, an octopus with an artillery that somehow evolves from fish, Shuckle, Heracross, Sneasel, Teddiursa, Ursa's wings, Legama.
Alright, I get it! Despite all these Animorphs, Missingno's deadly transformation isn't a Pokemon at all. The Grim Reaper of Pokemon is here. And his name is Ghost, son of a...
Missingno in this form is quite powerful, as they're able to kill you and your Pokemon all at once with the curse that doesn't hurt him in the process, reanimate more recent dead than just fossils, and confuse into a trainer to possess them if they're picked up as an item. While he's not shown much in terms of direct power, being able to keep up with other Pokemon is pretty impressive, considering the fact they're able to destroy entire mountains at their best.
Though the fact he's a normal type means he's weak to rock and ghost type attacks for some reason.
Well, technically he's a normal bird type, but bird types don't actually exist, so we don't know what they're weak to.
Nonetheless, Missingno's abilities made him quite sought after by Pokemon fans, even despite Nintendo's warnings.
Perhaps this is what he wanted all along, a chance to become a beloved and popular element of the Pokemon fandom.
Who's next?
We sure that's not gonna mess up our files?
Nah, I'm sure it'll render fine.
If we were just talking a Minecraft player against a bunch of Pokemon, the Pokemon will win more times than not. But thanks to all their weird glitching abilities, this is far more complicated.
While Missingno had the agent raw power, Herobrine can simply outlast him in anything they threw. You see, with the totems of Undyne and other stars, Herobrine wasn't being put down very easily since he could just come back to life.
As for Missingno, on the other hand, while he has been shown to revive other Pokemon, there's never really been a case of him doing that sort of thing on himself.
Since they were both able to glitch the game at the will, crashing and freezing was kind of a null factor, pun not intended. But since Herobrine is able to actively affect the codes and remove the entire world from the game, there's no reason to say he couldn't just remove Missingno, especially since Missingno has no counter to something like that.
This ultimately comes down to a fundamental difference in their lores. While Missingno was an entity that was part of the code, Herobrine was an entity actively manipulating the code.
Best fiction fights win.